Right, this is a game of rapid. It's 15:10. That's the default time what they set for a rapid game. Obviously you can challenge on custom, but it means you get a 10-second increment. I don't normally play with increments, so I've got to potentially slow down a lot here. I very rarely play rapid games, just thought I'll throw one in. Okay, night up, so just develop. I'm still going to be playing relatively like a blitz game for most of this, I would think. Oops. I just realised I forgot to put my glasses on. He pushes up. So I've got d6, d5, a6. I think I'm just going to go with d6. Just cover the knight jumping forward, release the bishop. Bishop down, I've got bishop d7, I guess. Okay, so he pushes up. I think you're okay to play bishop up here, but I can't remember exactly. Pawn takes. No, I'm just going to take the pawn. I don't remember the theory, so I'm just going to take. He plays up. So I'll just develop. I don't think he'll take there, but I'll pre-move in case he does. Okay, I don't know why he's going quite so slow in the early opening moves, but not to worry. I wonder if there's some sort of tactic in this opening here that I've forgotten about. He's taken an awful long time over a straightforward early position. I'm not seeing anything though. Yeah, this is very unusual now, isn't it? He's going way too long thinking over this one move. We're only at move 6. What's he been now? About 3 minutes? Okay, what other ratings has he got? Let me see. I don't want to click on anything just in case I jump away from the game. There must be a reason though why he's taken so long not making a move. So he finally moves, plays bishop forward. I'll just develop. If he takes, I'll take with a pawn this time. If he takes with either, and just get the bishop up and castle. So what did he do there? Is that 5 minutes 30 he took on that move? Can't quite read that, I think it is. Castle, he must have been away from the computer, I guess, not to worry. Again, I'll pre-move in case he takes with either piece. There's knight up, so I'll just castle. Simple development. Again, pre-move to take with a pawn if he takes with either piece. It's very unusual, isn't it? 5 minutes 34 for a move and then 3 minutes 12 for a move when we're so early in a game. Be interesting to see as the game progresses if you can suddenly play very, very quickly. Yeah, another 1 minute 25. Very unusual. Right, so what do we want to do? Knight across is potentially a move, but I don't like the look of that. I think I'm just going to push the pawn and try and gain a little bit of space and prompt him to counter push. Maybe queen to c8 just to get both pieces on the diagonal. I could play possibly d5 to try and stop the knight jumping forward, and then possibly just run the e-pawn up the board at some point. It gives me a backward c-pawn, but controls a lot of squares and gains a little bit more space. Yeah, he does counter push, so now I'm going to play d5. Stop the knight coming forward in a hurry. So he goes the other side. So now I thought I'd pin the knight. He can push, then I can drop back. But I think for now I'll just play across, preparing to go forward at some point potentially. Again, maybe queen to c8 to double up on the diagonal, should he push the pawn. It might be worth playing bishop to g4 first to provoke h3, then drop the bishop back. Queen c7 is tempting as well to try and support playing e5. They just play a knight forward. Okay. So I guess logically rook across is a move, but then it kind of boxes my pieces in a little bit. If I play up, it can grab a pawn. So I don't like the look of that. Knight forward's a move, knight takes, takes. I'm just going to play queen up there and let him take the bishop. I don't know, I won't pre-move. I might take with the knight and trade the other bishop. Otherwise, if I put the queen here, it maybe makes e4 a bit easier for him, which I don't think I want. So yeah, if he takes, I'll probably take with a knight, trade the bishops, and then I can again push with an e5. Yeah, another one, 1 minute 23. Going very, very slow. For somebody with a 1846 rating, means he should be capable of playing some pretty decent chess, so he shouldn't need to take quite so long. So I'll take, and I'll take back. But now I've got the potential to play e5, or possibly just e6 and push the c-pawn. Try and create an imbalance in the pawn structure. I like the idea of e5 followed by e4, or e5 pawn up, but then you run into problems with maybe f4. Yeah, he does push the pawn straight away. So now I've got a choice to make. I'm probably going to still play e5 and allow takes. Then I've got space. Alternative is to put the knight on e5. There's no queen move to pin, so I'm hitting the bishop. And to keep the bishop on, he has to drop back. So if he takes, I take, he takes. I might lose a pawn that way. I don't like the look of that, so I'm just going to push with e5. Of course, I'll pre-move in case he takes. Oops, just move the mouse slightly over. He does. Now he pushes forward, so pawn up looks logical, I guess. Yeah, let's just push the pawn up. Again, I'll pre-move in case he takes. I don't think he will. Otherwise, I'm just going to look to get the rook across to support the knight. And so he plays queen up. That's logical. So he's looking to play rook across and then maybe push the pawn. So I can play rook up or rook across, I think, as my two preferred moves. I like the look of rook up. Continue supporting here, but also support the knight. Keep that rook there to keep an eye on this pawn. Gives me the option to take either way as well. So he does play rook over. So now I've got the option to actually move this knight somewhere. Lots of squares for the knight, and I think I will do that. If I play a rook across, then this pawn's vulnerable. Yeah, I'm just going to play the knight forward. Then maybe rook across to support this pawn. If this pawn moves, then I'm hitting this pawn. So he pushes up. Now I've got f6 up to support. If I push, he can take with a check, so I don't want that. So I like the idea of f6. The other move is really to go across and just allow him to take and trade, and then I've got an isolated pawn, but I've got some centre control. So rook across, takes, 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 rook across, then maybe just drop the queen back, and it's solid enough, but I'm not so keen on that. I think I might play f6 and support the pawn and take back with a pawn. Yeah, so take with a pawn. Now, which one do I want to support here? I'm going to play rook here so I can try and push the pawn, assuming he doubles up. Slightly double-edged. If I push the pawn up, I'm allowing queen down, pressuring two pieces, even though the queen guards him. It could get overloaded. Could be a little bit tricky, this. Because there's a 10-second increment, there's no danger of him actually running out of time. Yeah, he does indeed double up, so the natural move is just to push. Then look to push again, or look to push again, and I don't see anything any better. He's not going to kick the knight in one move. So let's just push the pawn forward and threaten to push again. He plays bishop up, so it doesn't stop me from pushing again. Rook takes, pawn takes is clearly good for me. So if I push, the queen can't come forward anywhere, so he's got to go back somewhere. Then potentially knight can jump in as a right nuisance. Now if I push the other pawn, it opens everything up in a way that I don't like. So pawn up, queen goes back somewhere, knight across, bishop back. Knight can jump in and hit the rook, and the rook is temporarily trapped, isn't it? I'm going to do that, gain a little bit more space, and then maybe play knight across and see where he puts his queen. But I'm assuming he's got to go back to one of these. Then knight over threatens a knight to jump across to c3. Now that's allowed it, I think. Knight across and in, and I'm threatening to fork too, and he can't move the rook away anyway. If he goes that way, I take with a check. If he goes that way, I take, and my rook is protected in any event, and the knight covers the square. So let's jump across and threaten to go here. Even if he brings the queen forward, I think I can still go there anywhere, and I'm still hitting the rook and it still can't escape. So rook takes, I take back, my queen guards the rook. So he has moved rook across, so I've still got knight over hitting queen and rook. Is there anything better? I don't see it. So stick to the plan. He plays up. So take. So now logically I put the queen in the middle of the board, or do I jump the rook across and get rid of his potentially dangerous rook? So rook over, takes, takes, queen check up, and there's no danger whatsoever against me. I like the look of that, so I'm going to look to trade off that rook. He might not trade here, he might run it across somewhere else. If he does, I'll play queen, I think, to e5, support the pawn, gain some centre ground. He does indeed go over, so I think queen... Oh no, I could actually go directly to f4 there, threatening a check. Takes, take with check, he moves over, rook check, takes, takes, takes. I give up the pawn, but I get rid of his rook. Yeah, that's got to be stronger, going to f4. I still support the pawn, but I'm threatening a check. Takes, check, assuming he moves over. I've then got a rook check threat. Whoa, can he get away with that? Takes, takes. I mean, I've definitely got the rook off the board if I want it off the board, then of course. What about check? Rook takes, pawn takes, check. That's a cheeky little move if it works. So rook takes. I take the rook with a check and I'm hitting the queen. Queen takes, rook takes, I'm no better off. So I might as well just trade. So now I think it makes sense just to simply bring the king up and support the pawn, and then I can free the rook. So I've just got to get the rook active now and get these pawns on dark squares so I don't let the bishop get to them. Obviously he's got to get his king over to my pawn, but he needs 1, 2, 3 moves to get there. So maybe I run the king this way. He's allowed me to step over. Up he's got a check. He's given me rook across actually. King up. Yeah, rook across looks good. But rook across here looks good. I don't see how he stops that. So rook across, king up, rook down, and I'm going to pick up one of them. And I'm just going to rush the pawn. So if I go here, he could obviously put the bishop back, then it potentially takes, takes. And his king has got to stop my pawn. He can't wander off. He's got to keep this stopped. So get that bishop off and it's got to be winning. But I think just going here for now looks cleaner. Threatening a check. So it's going to pick up a pawn here. And king comes up and I can just push the pawn. That's going to queen. So that's just a very good win, isn't it? Very, very good win. Don't know why he took so long there. He's got an 1840 odd rating, so he's clearly a very capable club player. But he's taken way too long in the early stages. Okay, increments means you're never going to flag him, but I thought I played pretty well there. That's a good win. Right, this is just a quick add-on to the game of rapid chess that I've played earlier on chess.com here. I managed to get a good win, and you can see the analyzer, which my opponent actually ran after the game, gave my opponent 58.2 accuracy. I got 97.7, which is obviously very good. I've got one mistake, which I will quickly flick through here, but I'd highly recommend to anybody who does play on chess.com, you should use the analyzer quite a lot if you're not in the habit of actually using it. It's very useful just to give you basic figures on how you've actually done. You can see a breakdown here, then you just click to flick through the moves. I'm going to go through this relatively quickly. Normally, of course, if I wasn't doing a video, I would take my time and look at these moves in a lot more detail, but I'm just flicking through. It's very, very useful. And I played the game the whole way through just with basic principled common sense moves, not trying to do anything fancy, just logical development. So just trading pieces there with a view to trying to gain a bit more centre ground. That's all I'm really looking at. So here I've moved the rook up just to break this pin, and then I've freed up the other rook to come across. And here I decided to try and get the pawns in the middle just to keep a connected centre, and it turns out that it was a good thing to do. As here, my opponent's got to move the queen back somewhere. This diagonal is covered, the knight covers the front, and then the idea is to jump the knight in, which is exactly what I did. So you can see he's made a mistake there, and straight away it gives black a big advantage now. So I've played the correct move, taken the rook, then I've played the rook across to try and get his rook off the board. So he does play across. The computer says he should have actually taken there. And this was my one mistake in the game. I did consider putting the queen on e5, but I thought it was better to go to f4 with a view to potentially just trading pieces off having got the rook for bishop advantage. And again, that's exactly what I did. Then I bring the king up to support the pawn to release the rook. And now he's made a couple of mistakes, so it's just a routine victory. And after the king runs away, I can just push the pawn up if I want. I could grab a pawn there, but I can just promote the pawn in 2 moves, so that's where he resigned. But I'd highly recommend if you do play on chess.com but you don't use it routinely, I'd highly recommend you use the Analyser just to look at your games in a bit more detail.